Tonight, 25 Investigates exposes a nationwide failure in foster care. Missing and forgotten kids kicked out of the system.
Investigative reporter Eric Rasmussen first told you yesterday how some children at group homes are exploited by sex traffickers on weekends, but that's only part of the story.
For the last year, Eric and our team of journalists, they discovered states, including Massachusetts, closed the cases of missing foster kids while they were still unaccounted for.
Mark Vanessa, 25 Investigates, teamed up with sister station WSB in Atlanta and found thousands of foster kids across the country among the missing and forgotten. For years, Massachusetts DCF has been telling the feds it hasn't closed a single case of a foster kid who's missing, but our investigation found otherwise.
In the summer, we might go out and meet like 20, 30, 40 people in just one day.
Amid the fast pace and prosperity of downtown Boston.
Do you feel like the system let you down?
Yes, very much.
25 Investigates found kids once in the state's care, now on the street.
When I was 14, they just gave me up to DCF because they couldn't handle me.
We met 19-year-old Joanna on the Boston Common, a former foster kid. She says she ran away from a group home right before a suicide attempt landed her in the hospital last year.
Did anybody ever track you down and say, Joanna, you gotta come back?
No, they did not care. I've never gotten an email from my counselor, my DCF worker.
Joanna says she was missing from the group home less than 2 weeks.
So it was like, look, I really need help. And when I went in, she said, your case is closed.
What was going through your mind when they said they closed your case?
I knew right then I was screwed.
DCF wouldn't comment on Joanna's case, but says it can close any child's case once they turn 18, even if they're missing. Since the year 2000, federal records show child welfare agencies across the country closed the cases of more than 53,000 foster kids listed as runaways, and at least another 61,000 missing. But over the last decade, the same federal data shows Massachusetts and a few other states reported closing 0 cases of foster kids labeled missing or runaway. Researchers, child advocates, and Joanna's own experience suggest those numbers are misleading.
Does that make you mad?
It makes me really upset. And policy, what's our policy? What are they doing?
Elizabeth Jackson is the executive director of Bridge Over Troubled Waters in Boston. She says many of the homeless kids helped by her nonprofit come from foster care, and she's calling out the system.
And there are kids out here, and so if you feel like I'm pointing a finger at you, so be it. Come to the table and let's figure it out, because we are seeing kids, and I know you know that we are seeing kids.
Massachusetts DCF reports it unloads more than 800 foster children from the system every year when they turn 18. But the agency told us it does not track how many of those kids were missing at the time they were discharged.
In a year-long nationwide investigation, Boston 25 News and our Atlanta sister station, WSB, contacted all 50 states. We uncovered a patchwork of policies, with some able to close a case after a foster child is missing for just a few months, while others must wait until they turn 21.
Records show the state of Illinois discharged a missing foster child in 2016 who was just 9 years old. The state now tells us it took the child back into custody a year later. Jackson says no one was looking for a 15-year-old girl missing from foster care in New York when she walked into this office in Boston saying she'd been abandoned by a boyfriend.
What do you really think was happening in that situation?
Oh, she was trafficked. She was being put in a prostitution ring, and she didn't even know it.
An unidentified teenage girl shot dead in Atlanta last year turned out to be a missing foster child. When the victim's brother finally saw this facial reconstruction by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, she was identified as 17-year-old Danetta Franks.
It just sucks to know that she was speaking out, crying out for help, but she never got it.
A new federal law now requires all states to report missing foster kids to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children here in the Washington, D.C. area. But even now, the center tells us that's not always happening.
There are agencies out there that have been known to close these cases, and then therefore no one's looking.
Bob Lowry is vice president of the National Center's Missing Children's Division.
We can do better at this, can't we?
I think the answer to that is yes, we can do better.
Brittany Hill is part of that effort.
But yeah, I walked like 9 miles in one day.
We followed her on foot in Boston.
My name is Brittany. I'm actually an outreach worker with Bridge Over Troubled Waters.
Trying to find kids at risk.
I can actually just pass a card to you. You don't have to give me any information. We can at least get you hooked up with a counselor to do an intake.
We witnessed one breakthrough on this day when a homeless teen asked for help.
It's great. That's what we want out here.
Well, there's a chance he'll have somewhere to stay tonight because of you.
Yeah.
Joanna says she's been living on the street too ever since the day the state closed her case.
And I just broke down and just left and been homeless for the last 11 months.
Now an adult, no longer missing, but still feeling forgotten.
Looking back on the situations, it really kills me.
Now, in the weeks since we met Joanna, Bridge Over Troubled Waters told us it was working to help her find housing, but at last check, she is still looking.
Eric, this seems to be such a big problem. What is the state doing about it?
Vanessa, I can tell you, we first contacted DCF about this in August of last year. Now, they declined our latest request for an interview to sit down and talk to the commissioner, but in a statement, DCF said it works with law enforcement and families to try to find missing kids. The agency insists it can reopen the case of any foster child even after they've turned 18, but we found that just wasn't the case with Joanna.
Hopefully this brings some change. Great reporting, Eric.